So I guess we are ready to go. So before we begin, I'd like to take a moment to just introduce myself. My name is Aarav Makadia. I'm the president of the Internatus Business Club at New Jersey, also commonly referred to as IBCNJ, and I'm also a senior now at Monroe Township High School, located in the Greater Princeton area in New Jersey. So just on behalf of all our partners and other affiliates and all other branches, I'd like to welcome everyone here today to our first IBCNJ event, EdTech Entrepreneurship with Tán Ho, the co-founder and chief experience officer at Fiveable. So before we begin, a couple of things. Should any of our members here today find yourself curious or unaware about anything we discussed throughout the duration of the event, please direct any and all of your questions to Jeremy Slayton in the chat. We'll be leading our final Q&A session towards the end of the panel. Since some of our members, or all of our members now should have access to the media consent form, you should be able to just unmute, turn your camera on, and ask the question that you're interested in asking. Also, for those of you who are tuning in online, the Internatus Business Club, or IBC, is a national non-for-profit collection of business clubs, which consist of emerging student leaders who have the common goal of providing value to society. IBC members have access to selective networking events, workshops, and quarterly business forums, as well as exclusive scholarships, internships, opportunities at partnerships across the country, and community initiatives. So for more information, feel free to check out internatus.org. And so without any further ado, let me allow our speaker to introduce themselves. So Jeremy, feel free to change to the next slide.
Hey everybody, how's it going? Happy Sunday. My name is Tán. I'm the co-founder and chief experience officer at Fiveable. There'll be a change to my role coming soon, but a sneak peek, I'll be becoming the chief operations officer at Fiveable. So my career path is a little bit crazy right now, but I'm kind of exploring what my role will eventually be. Thank you so much to IBC for having me today.
All right, with that said, we're gonna give it a go and start on some of our prepared questions before we lead into the Q&A. So to start off, first question we all have is, how has your education, throughout your career kind of influenced that and where you are now? What do you think is your biggest benefits and regrets, if any, you've had throughout your educational experience? And how would you say that has tied into your career pathway and career experiences just now at Fiveable?
Great question. So when I graduated from high school, I thought I was going into college to pursue a medical degree. A year in, I completely bombed my first year of classes, right? I'm talking like a 1.62 GPA. I was put on academic probation, and then I had to really figure out what it was that I actually wanted to do. And I had always been designing and doing marketing work in the background, but not as the primary not primarily as my career. And so I wanted to explore that a little bit further. And so going to the college that I did, it was really top rated for biology and pre-med, and not so much design and marketing or business. And so my college education was radically different from a lot of people. And I think the series of failures that came from, not being interested in the classes, not being interested in the work, I really came to realize that it made me realize that I wasn't interested in what I was actually doing at the time, right? And so once I pivoted to marketing and design, I ended up triple majoring with the marketing design and digital media arts degree instead of biology pre-med. My biggest regret is not coming to that realization sooner, because that's a whole year of college, right? I had to take extra classes every single semester for the rest of my college career just to graduate on time. The biggest benefit, I think, was the fact that when I was actually doing something that I really enjoyed, that opened up a lot more opportunities for me. And so if you feel like you are stuck doing something that you're not really interested in or can't picture yourself doing for the long term, I would recommend, really asking yourself, is this what I want to be doing for the rest of my life? And if the answer is no, then you got to keep looking. Otherwise, you're going to waste a lot of time like I did.
Definitely. And I guess to kind of connect that into the second question we have, which is, being from a minority group, in what unexpected ways has your career kind of been affected by that? And how do you kind of overcome these challenges?
I think I don't know if, I guess there's like a couple of groups that I belong to, right? Queer, Vietnamese, immigrant family, first generation low income. I think all of those obstacles made it really hard to realize. It made it really hard for me to realize what I wanted to do sooner than later. I didn't have family members that were able to like help me navigate the systems that were ahead of me, or to even teach me like about different types of roles. And so I think if I had more resources because of my background, I think I would have figured out a lot of these things a lot earlier on. But at the same time, it was actually kind of great because I managed to navigate it by myself and obviously like ask for help in the right places. But because of that, I became a lot more independent in terms of what I was hoping for my career would be. How did I overcome these challenges? I think you always reach out to the people around you for support, right? Even if it's just a question or if you're asking for advice, like look for the right people to ask those questions to, and then that'll move you forward a lot quicker. Also in college, there was like a lot of resources that I never really paid attention to that I ended up having to pay attention to because I was on academic probation my first year. And so use the resources that are around you and kind of take the time to explore what's available to you. Being from a minority group, there's tons of resources and tons of content out there that can help you kind of explore your career in a more fulfilling way. I guess the last thing I would add to that is being a minority co-founder, along with my co-founder Amanda, we don't get a lot of funding in the VC space, right? I think even women get like less than 2% of all funding. And so those are challenges because people don't necessarily believe in you from the start. You have to like really work harder than everybody else to prove yourself. And so I think that alone has helped us really accelerate and really set out to prove that we are doing something meaningful. So I think, you know, that is kind of like being a minority is difficult, but it's also a catalyst for your career, because in the sense of you're going to have a lot of challenges ahead of you. And if you can get over those, then the things that come after that become a lot easier.
Definitely feel that. And I guess, being a co-founder yourself, can you talk a bit more about, the journey that you had, building this company, Fiveable, which I just recently, learned that you guys raised a extremely large Series A. How did the operations kind of differ at the different stages that you guys had as a company, and, where you guys are now?
Yeah, back then we were very bootstrapped and very scrappy, right? We were moving fast. Back in 2018, when I first joined Fiveable, probably in the winter of 2018, there's about like 12,000 students on the website. To this day, there's like we've been able to reach over 8 million students since 2018. Like 8 million students have used our content, our resources, our products in some type of way. But the journey to get there was a little bit wild. For example, Amanda and myself, we wore a lot of hats at the beginning. We still kind of do. But back then, we ran customer support, we designed the product, we built the website, we did all the marketing. Now we have people dedicated to everything, right? We have people on marketing, we have people running support. We don't have to think about those things. We are more positioned now to focus more on strategy and making sure our team has everything they need to build the product that we want. But if I take a step all the way back to the beginning, like how did I even find Amanda? Many people ask that question, and it's pretty great because we met each other on Reddit. I was looking for freelance work back in, I would say like November 2018. I was homeless at the time. I didn't have a like stable job, so I was looking online for freelance work that I can pull, or that I can get like contract work for. And then I somehow ended up on Amanda's post where she created a blog about the Fiveable house, which is essentially a startup house that we ended up locating in Philadelphia. And that is kind of where everything like changed for Fiveable, is because when we were together, we had the same mindset, right? We have like this gritty like founder's mindset. And what that means is that you identify all the problems in your way and you just solve them, and then you just keep moving forward. And no matter what barriers come up, you find the right people to help you, you find the right resources to learn about something, to do it. Anything that you can do to move the company forward, we did. So if you think about Fiveable all the way back then, we were just a blog. We had some articles, we had some videos, and we were doing a lot more live streaming back then. And then we realized, over time that students' needs are shifting, right? Even over the course of the pandemic, students kind of steered away from live events and wanted to focus more on asynchronous experiences, because live events kind of felt like just replicating the school day. And we wanted to avoid, putting students back into school after school. So the operations, back then everything was like stitched together. We had like WordPress websites. We used Zapier for everything. We had to like automate spreadsheets, type forms, all of those things, just to have like a MVP version of our product. So I don't know, for those of you who were with Fiveable back then, you probably have seen the evolution from just like a couple of pieces of content and some live streams to now a whole fully fledged platform.
Definitely. And I guess to move, deeper into your role currently, I know you mentioned that will kind of change. What does your day-to-day at Fiveable look like now? And I guess, generally speaking, as a co-founder, how does that look now? I guess when you mentioned, focusing more on strategy.
Yeah, for quite a while, I was working in the company rather than on the company. And what that means is, executing, right? Working on the company means strategizing, making sure the company has everything they need, building those systems and processes and team and organizational structures to help, make this like a legitimate business. So my role as Chief Experience Officer, I managed quite a few teams. I managed marketing at one point, I managed design, I managed student success and the community teams. I do not recommend managing that many teams. It's a little bit wild, but moving away from that, I'm in the process of offloading some of those departments so that they will exist on their own rather than me managing them. So in terms of managing marketing, this is working with our head of marketing to really hammer down the marketing strategy and all like external and internal communications. Anything from like social media to email blasts to any other kind of loyalty, affiliate experiences. For design, this is working with the product teams to build the product, right? This includes like wireframing, prototyping, launching the product, and incorporating the feedback, and then managing all the people on all of these teams. So I think at one point I managed about like not 30, but like 15 to 20 people, interns and full-time staff. And so what I'll be moving to now is more of the chief operating officer role, which will be more behind the scenes and really building up these systems and really streamlining the processes across the company that will help each team work a lot more efficiently and utilize our resources better. This also means that I'll be working with Amanda on the company and in terms of strategy, making sure we have what we need for fundraising, for our people, all of those things. And I wouldn't say I have like a typical day at Fiveable. One day I can have like 7 meetings, and then the other day I can just have like completely heads down time for me to just fully work on the things that I need to get done. So it really depends. Next week, for example, I'm hosting performance reviews, but the week after I'll be out. And then the week after, we'll be building and designing the product. And so it really varies, because for an early stage startup like we are right now, these are just the things that we have to do until we get to the next step where we have, again, more people to do some of these things and more people to think about these things.
Definitely. And I definitely see how that's an interesting transition from like a role that was more so encompassing a lot of different things, and then now moving to a very specific area of the company. And I
Mhm.
guess, some of the prepared questions we have before we move into our Q&A, if you could just give any, all of us being current high school students, what would one piece of advice you could give us that would kind of reflect your educational background, your background at Fiveable, kind of raising this amazing company?
For sure. This is one of my favorite questions because I wish growing up, I didn't have a lot of self-esteem or confidence in myself. And I think one piece of advice I would give to any high schooler is to be brave, right? Be fearless in what you pursue and what you care about. Because if you can be very authentic in that, you'll be able to get other people to buy into your ideas, to your thoughts, all of those things. Amanda was like really awesome at this. She's always been fearless, which is the thing that I admired about her, and that I dropped everything to just like go work with her. She just did not care what barriers were in her way. She just knew that students needed help right now, and anything that goes against that, we had to overcome for the sake of the students, right? And so she is a great example of what that means to be brave, to be fearless, to have conviction, and to hold strong in what you believe and what you want to do. I think students these days will come up again, especially if you're pursuing a career path that's not aligned with what your family thinks is the best thing for you. If you're able to really clarify why you want to do this and how it's important, how much it's important, like how important it is to you, I think that you can sway your family's thoughts or anybody else who might be a naysayer, right? For example, my mom did not believe that design was going to be a worthwhile career for me. She was like, only medicine is like the thing. And it took a few years to kind of like get over that. But now that I'm at where I am, I think she definitely regrets saying some of those things, but it's not even about the regret. I think it's just, again, showing that if you really want to pursue something, just do it. And then, you'll figure out a way to kind of navigate around the barriers that come up.
Sounds really interesting. And I think, tying all of this in, understanding all of these things about you, tying them into our Q&A coming here, again, once again, opening this up to anyone, and would like to hand it off to Jeremy, actually, if he wants to kind of tell us a bit more about the Q&A, and kind of how he's handling that.
All right, hello everybody. I'm Jeremy Slayton, the Vice President of IBC New Jersey. It's great to have everyone here. Thank you all for coming. How this will work is if you have any questions, feel free to just unmute and ask it to our speaker. If not, we do have a few questions that came through the chat that we can answer. But I want to open up the floor right now. Okay, so it doesn't seem that anybody's unmuted yet. So the first question is, I was wondering if you could talk a little bit more about so what Fiveable is and what inspired you and Amanda to co-found it.
Yeah, so Fiveable is an online learning platform for high school students, right, to study what they need to study with their peers. At first, we just started off as simply live streaming, but then we kind of evolved to incorporate all these different other ways of learning. So trivia, discussions, written content, study guides, programs, all of these things. I think now that where we are now is that with the acquisition of Ours, Ours is a totally dope platform founded by a 16-year-old Calix Huang, and where we're moving is creating a space for students to create their own social learning spaces, right? So this means like create a study room with your friends and like knock things out together and hold each other accountable on whatever task that you need to do or whatever objectives that you have. Even if you're like a student organization, you need like a workspace. Like Ours is a great place to do that, right? And I think that is the more interesting angle that we're coming from now, and not so much focused on the content side of things, because students can get content anywhere, and that's not gonna be what makes us different, right? It's going to be like allowing students to have some power in creating these spaces on their own or for themselves. Also, like we started off in AP exams, so advanced placement exams, but now we're expanding much more beyond that, right? Even to general, general curriculum in high school, personal finance, mental health, all of those things we're incorporating into our platform because these are all the things that students need, and these are all the things that students ask for support on.
Right, I did see we do have, I saw Natalie wrote a question in the chat. Natalie, if you would like to unmute and ask it, you're able to.
Hi, I just had a quick question about any future plans you have for Fiveable.
Yeah, this is a good question. So in the next few months, we will be undergoing a brand refresh. So really integrating the Fiveable and Ours brand. Right now they're separate. And so we've been doing a lot of work to kind of integrate the two, not just in visual and aesthetics, but also like the platforms, right? So really thinking about how do we build a cohesive user journey across Fiveable and Ours, and how do they integrate with each other? I think we're also going to be or at least attempting to double our team over the next 2 years. So right now we have about 20 people, and then we're going to be trying to get to at least 40 to 50 people, because a lot of that will be on the product end of things, because we just need more people power on the product team, more design leadership, more senior designers, more senior engineers, those kinds of things. So we'll be doing a lot of hiring, both full-time staff and internships. And so keep an eye out for those, because those will be really cool opportunities for students.
Awesome. I'll open up the floor again. Anybody would like to unmute and ask a question?
I have a question. You mentioned that your role involves a lot of marketing. So I was just wondering, what's one marketing tactic that you kind of swear by with Fiveable? It showed you the most results.
Yeah, great question, Navi. Did I say your name right, Navia?
Yeah.
Awesome. So when I first joined Fiveable, the first thing I did was implement an SEO strategy. And so SEO is just search engine optimization, right? It's like an ongoing process, and it just never stops, but you have to keep improving at it because the algorithms change, search engines change all the time, and you have to be really, you have to adapt to all of those changes, right? Because one day your content could be ranking on Google in the top spot, and then the next day it could be wiped out. And so you have to be really careful in how you approach SEO. There's a lot of like black hat, aka like negative tactics that will result in like penalties to your search engine rankings. And then also like social media, like y'all understand social media, like SEO and social media are probably the biggest tools when you don't have any money, right? We didn't have any money like early on to really like think about paying for crazy tools or anything like that. SEO is like, it requires people power, but you don't have to pay somebody else to do it. You can just do it on your own. And that is something that I would recommend for anybody who's interested in starting a business. Like really think through what your content strategy looks like, what your marketing strategy looks like. SEO should be a huge piece of that. Most of our traffic is organic. I think it's 75 to 80% of our 8 million users are organic traffic. The rest are like referrals and like social and all that stuff. So that is probably one of my favorite tactics / tools to use for any business. Hope that helps. Google has this really awesome app called Google Primer. Really recommend downloading it and doing all of their content on there. They're like bite-sized interactive pieces of content that you can learn a lot about business and marketing and all these things.
That's great. Thank you so much.
Of course. Thanks for your question.
All right, so just taking a look at the time, it seems we are nearing wrapping up, so I will pass it on back to Aarav.
Alrighty, so since we are closing out on time, like Jeremy mentioned, I think we're just gonna wrap it up here. So for all of our members, more information about our subsequent events, will be provided soon via Slack and can be accessed through our website as well. For anyone who's tuning in online, once again, who's interested in becoming a member of IBC, among the additional perks in addition to some of these signature speaker events like we have with Mr. Ho here today, please check out any of our national chapters at internatus.org/apply. I want to take a moment to just thank all of you guys for coming and all the panelists for just taking this time out of their day to speak for us, particularly. It was very interesting to learn more about Fiveable and just seeing how that impacts us as students who, many of us do take AP classes and advanced coursework. So it's very interesting to see how that kind of plays a role in our lives. It was very insightful, not just for myself, but I'm sure for most of our members. So I hope everyone just enjoys this weekend. And once again, thank you again, Mr. Ho, for coming to speak for us here at IBC.
Yeah, thank you for having me. And just a heads up, like if you have ideas or thoughts on how to make Fiveable better, we're always open ears. So, shoot me a message, shoot me an email. If you have questions about your own career, here's my email address, and you can just shoot me an email. We can set up a meeting. We can talk through what you aren't interested in. We can talk about your struggles. I like talking about mine, but I always love to hear where students are coming from too. And so I'm always happy to give students some time on my calendar to talk through some of these things. Hopefully that can be helpful. And hopefully this was helpful or insightful a little bit.
Definitely. And once again, thank you so much. And yeah, look forward to seeing where everything turns out.
Thank you. Thanks, IBC. I'll see you soon.